Good evening. It is time for the NFL Week 14 edition of the Iman Report. It is Sunday, December 13th. If you like what you see, please be kind and hit that like button and more importantly, subscribe. Of course, we're going to start off with tonight's game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. The injuries have certainly caught up to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben had another dismal performance tonight against Buffalo. And what can I say about Josh Allen? Allen is looking like an elite quarterback. And now Pittsburgh, this second loss almost secures the fact that they're now, don't look now, you've got the Cleveland Browns right behind Pittsburgh, who has a huge game tomorrow night against the Baltimore Ravens. Roethlisberger 21 for 37, but Connor was just AWOL running the football tonight with an atrocious 18 yards running the football. Buffalo was good tonight at stopping the run. And this was the Stefon Diggs show, 130 receiving yards and a touchdown. Pittsburgh, though, was able to shut down the run. But Buffalo's defense was just better tonight, and the injuries of the Steelers just could not stop the athletic ability of Josh Allen tonight, who had a good game but not a great game. But it is time to start. Is Josh Allen at this point an elite quarterback? You know, I'm leaning towards yes. I think Allen's approaching elite status in the NFL, and he is starting to become the best quarterback in Buffalo since some guy named Jim Kelly played at Buffalo many, many years ago. As for as I said, Pittsburgh, now they got to watch out for Cleveland. Cleveland got that huge game. Good news for Pittsburgh is they are going to get a bit of a reprieve against Cincinnati next week, who might be very likely having to start Ryan Finley. Such sad state of affairs for the Bengals. But the two games after that are very tough games. They get Indianapolis, and then they get to close the season. And this could now be a potential winner take all between the Steelers and the Brownies in week 17. If Indianapolis is successful at beating Pittsburgh in week 16, and the Steelers and the Brownies win their next three games. The Browns, of course, they get next week. The Browns do get tomorrow night. It's Browns and Ravens on ESPN. That is going to be a huge game for the Brownies. But if the Brownies want to get the division title, the margin of error is 0. But what are the other two games Cleveland has to play after that? Oh, they get the Giants, and they get the Giants next week on NBC. That might be a win. The Jets, they'll probably destroy the Jets. Before finishing off against Pittsburgh, they could running the table is very likely for Pittsburgh. Running the table is very likely for Cleveland. So there could be a real chance you're going to see Steelers and Brownies on NBC for the AFC title in week 17. Yeah, I think we are going to see Sunday Night Football pay a visit to Cleveland in week 17. This is going to be a very fun game. But this game all of a sudden just got a lot more important. Buffalo, I think Buffalo's going to win the division. Buffalo's got an easy path to the division title at this point. Bills at 10-3. I think this is their first 10. No, they won 10 games last year. My bad. But they get Denver on. They go to Denver on Saturday. That could be a trap game. that could be a trap game in Denver. Denver has actually been playing better as of late, so that might not be a gimme. Then they go to New England. We'll get to New England in a moment, but that could be a game where the Patriots are going to look to play spoiler. And that game will be on ABC and ESPN before finishing off against Miami in Week 17. That could be a potential winner-take-all. But now on to the other games. We'll go to the Thursday night game between the LA Rams and the New England Patriots. Goff not great, but good enough to win. But Aaron Donald just bullied Cam Newton. And now with New England 6-7, their season is pretty much done for all intents and purposes. But I do think that the Patriots will try to play spoiler for some other team here in the final 3 games. Patriots play the Dolphins next week. That could be a spoiler. They go back home to play the Bills. Another opportunity to be a spoiler. And then they finish off against a Jets, which is likely going to be an irrelevant game now. Pittsburgh going to Miami. I don't think they're going to win. I think that the game they're most likely going to play spoiler is at home against Buffalo. But Cam Newton, I don't think it's time to pull the plug on Cam Newton at this point. The Patriots need to look at some better options at quarterback in 2021. Cam Newton just ain't it. He's regressed worse and worse as the season's gone on. I honestly think you might just need to write out the string with Jarrett Stidham. I don't think Stidham's that much of a drop-off from Cam at this point. With this year season pretty much over, let's see what you got in Stidham in the final 3 games. But New England, I expect Bill Belichick to come in and retool the team, and they'll be back. But the Rams, Cam Akers was able to run circles all over the Patriots defense. LA now 9-4. LA has the clearest path to a division title. The final 3 games for the Rams are against the Jets, the Sea Chickens, followed by the Seahawks. The Jets, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. I think they'll go 2-1 in that stretch and finish with 11-5. And that might be good. That will likely be good enough for the Rams to win that division. In a big game today, it was the Kansas City Chiefs who hold on to beat the Miami Dolphins. Miami went to a 10-0 lead before Kansas City started storming back, and Patrick Mahomes woke up, had his coffee, and what can I say? You can only try to slow down Mahomes. You can't just stop Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes was a little bit more mortal than normal today. Mahomes threw 3 picks in this game. That was the bad. The good was the 393 yards and 2 interceptions. Tua was not too terrible either. 28 for 48, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tua was actually game. Tua almost mounted a comeback for Miami. But the Miami defense did not scheme well enough today to stop Kansas City. They slowed them down a bit, but just not enough to win this game. I think Miami is going to be right now the Dolphins might have the toughest schedule going into the last 3 games that are in the playoff hunt right now. Miami currently the 7 seed. They get the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Bills. Not an easy task. They could easily fall out of this playoff race. Could find themselves on the outside looking in if all things go wrong. But I think I'm projecting 2-1, which I think 10-6 could be just enough for Miami to sneak in as a 7 seed. But the future is mighty bright in Miami. And Tua showed he's going to be game for the future. Tua will be game in the future to beat a team like Kansas City. That day is coming for Miami. Brian Flores has really gotten this team back on track in Miami, and happier days are coming for Miami. Whether or not the playoffs happen is another question, but as for Kansas City, all of a sudden they can start talking about resting starters for potentially resting starters for weeks 16 and 17. With the Pittsburgh loss tonight, Kansas City has breathing room. If they get the win over the Saints next week, we could easily be discussing resting starters for weeks 16 and 17 for the Chiefs. Absolutely, by week 17, the Chiefs will be resting starters, because I feel like by then they will have the number 1 seed locked up. In Dallas, the Cowboys beat the Bengals 30-7. Brendan Allen gets hurt in this game. They might be down to Ryan Finley against Pittsburgh next week. Cincinnati's just not having luck with keeping quarterbacks healthy right now, as Brandon Allen suffers another injury. And Andy Dalton gets a bit of revenge against Cincinnati with a 122.6 passer rating. Amari Cooper with the touchdown. Dallas now 4-9. Cincinnati 2-10. Tennessee comes back and takes their anger out on Jacksonville after losing to the Brownies. And Mike Glennon was bad today. So bad that he got benched for Gardner Minshew in the second half. Gardner Minshew, I guess it's safe to say that Gardner Minshew is your best quarterback option at quarterback for the next 3 weeks before Justin Fields comes to Jacksonville. Tannehill was a game manager, good enough today. Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 215 rushing yards. Tennessee now 9-4. And this was a big win for Tennessee. The final 3 games for the Titans. They get the Lions, the Packers, and the Texans. Not exactly a hard schedule there. Packers might be their worst game. But other than that, everything is all paved in gold for the Titans. That will be on NBC. But Tennessee nearing the point where they're going to clinch a playoff berth in the coming weeks. Arizona gets back on track against the New York Giants. Daniel Jones was very flat today in his return. And this is one I have to say, the Cardinals actually finally woke up, had their Starbucks coffee, drank their Coke, went to the East Coast, and rattled off a win. So, congrats, Cardinals. You finally win a big game. Kenyon Drake was good enough. DeAndre Hopkins finally was good. 136 receiving yards for DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler 24 for 35. But this was a huge win for Arizona. Arizona is now back in the 7 seed at this time. And the Cardinals get Philadelphia next week. They could easily choke the next game against the Hurts. We just don't know what Cardinals we're going to get next week. But at this point, Arizona is probably going to make the playoffs now as a 7 seed and probably get bounced by the Saints. As for New York, they're now a game behind Washington. And for the G-Men, they could easily fall out of this race the next 2 games. Cleveland, Baltimore, then finish up with Dallas. I think that this is not going to be good news for New York. I think they go 1-2 in their final 3 games. I think this is a game New York needed today. But the future's bright, New York. It's just maybe not this year. But I think maybe not this year, but I think we get another good draft for the New York Giants. And Joe Judge, a very good coach. So things are definitely looking up for the New York Giants. But as for Cliff Kingsbury, he finally woke up and won a big game today. This was a must-win, and Kingsbury woke up and answered the bell today for once. In Chicago, the Bears beat the Houston Texans 36-7. Look what happens when you run the ball, Matt Nagy. You actually win games. Yeah. They made Deshaun Watson look silly today. Deshaun Watson was bullied and ran for his life. And the Chicago defense played pissed off today. Trubisky, 24 for 33. Yeah, you know what? Don't think about starting Nick Foles anymore. You know, Trubisky is not a bad quarterback. I feel like he was mismanaged. I really feel like Trubisky has been mismanaged the last couple years. You finally managed to use David Montgomery right for once. Montgomery with a 100-yard rushing game and actually ran for a touchdown. An 80-yard run for a touchdown today for David Montgomery. As it was all Bears all the time today. Allen Robinson with a touchdown. This has to have a good feeling for Mitch Trubisky. A 126.7 passer rating. Let's see the Bears schedule, too. You know, they finish off against Green Bay. They play Minnesota. That's the best win. Next week, if Chicago wants any hope to claw back into the playoff race, they gotta beat the Vikings next week. That is a must-win game for Chicago. Lose that game, it's over for the loser of that game is pretty much eliminated from the playoff race next week. Then they get Jacksonville and finish off against Green Bay at Chicago. In Carolina, in a rematch of Super Bowl 50, the Broncos are victorious over the Carolina Panthers, with Drew Lock trying to do his best Peyton Manning impression today. We saw the good Drew Lock today, 21 for 27, 280 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, a 149.5 passer ratings. Teddy Bridgewater was not terrible either, but he was roughed up by the Denver defense today. And Carolina, they're still a year out. They still play hard for Matt Rule. The talent's just not there for Carolina just yet. Denver, I think, is on the verge. I don't think Denver, it might be too late for Denver this year. But I do think Denver's on the verge of being good again. You just got to get more consistency out of Drew Lock in 2021. Don't give up on Lock. Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay, I thought they would have better games running the ball. They kind of disappointed today. But KJ Hamler, 2 touchdowns. You get Von Miller back. I think Denver is going to be a team that is going to contend in 2021 for the playoffs. The Buccaneers take care of business against the Vikings. Tom Brady was just a good game manager today. 195 passing, 15 for 23. Ronald Jones runs the football, 18 carries for 80 yards. I think the only bad thing for Tampa Bay is they did allow Dalvin Cook for 100 yards today. Cousins was decent today, 24 for 37, 225 passing yards. Now Minnesota's on the outside looking in at 6-7. As I said, that game against Chicago just became a lot more important. The winner is still in the hunt. The loser is pretty much out. Then they play the Saints on Christmas Day. That is going to be on Fox on Christmas Day, 1:30. Then you get the Vikings and Lions to finish off the year, and that could become an irrelevant game. You got the Colts beating the Raiders 44-27. Derek Carr, 31 for 45. Josh Jacobs was shut down by the Colts defense today. Phillip Rivers still turning back the clock. 19 for 28, 244 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor ran all over the Raiders today. And then Carr capitalizes it with a pick 6. And at T.Y. Hilton, 2 receiving touchdowns. And after the game, Paul Guenther fired. Finally, the bum is fired in Vegas. And now Rod Marinelli will take over as the interim defensive coordinator. But for Indy, alive and well at 9-4. The Colts get the Texans next, Steelers, and then Jacksonville. That's a 2-1, I think. I think 10-6, 11-5. That's going to be good enough to get in the playoffs right there, I think. Indy IW, a playoff team today. Give Frank Reich his dues. He found a way to win with Phillip Rivers. They're doing it. And now I think the Colts are a lock to make the playoffs at this point. In Seattle, they get right today. They take out their anger on the New York Jets. 40-3. Seattle finally blows out a team. Russell Wilson getting back on track. 21 for 27. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Darnold, another rough day for Darnold. Chris Carson with a touchdown. DK Metcalf with a touchdown. Seattle now 9-4. But unfortunately, they're going to be a wild card going into the playoffs at this point. The LA Chargers actually win a football game today. They beat the Atlanta Falcons 20-17. This could be a loss that could. This could be a very costly loss for Raheem Morris. And now Atlanta could reverse course on removing the interim tag off of Raheem Morris after today. The run game was shut down. Matt Ryan had a terrible game today, throwing 3 interceptions and a 57.3 passer rating. Justin Herbert, good enough. Austin Eckler back in today. And the Chargers win one today. That is a much needed win for Anthony Lynn. In Philly, it was Jalen Hurts who beats Taysom Hill today. 24-21, the Philadelphia Eagles upset the New Orleans Saints. And Miles Sanders runs for 115 yards. Jalen Hurts runs for over 100 yards. You know, Jalen Hurts might be that next Lamar. But that's only going to go so far. But Jalen Hurts, good debut, gets the win. Jalen Hurts looked a lot more confident in the pocket than Carson Wentz did. But Hurts has got to get better at throwing the football. They can't just... They can only get away with Hurts running for so long. Taysom Hill, you're a fraud. They finally lose one with Taysom Hill starting. Hill sacked 5 times. I think you got to go back to James. I think you got... Honestly, if Drew Brees cannot go against Kansas City, you got to go with Jameis. Jameis gives you a better chance at winning than Taysom Hill. And today was finally the day Taysom managed to cost the Saints a game. It's just time to accept reality that Taysom's not that great of a quarterback. But also, Alvin Kamara was shut down today by the Philly defense. In Detroit, Green Bay escapes with the win. Aaron Rodgers was just good enough. Aaron Rodgers, 26 for 33, 290 passing yards. Stafford, 24 for 34, 4 sacks. Unfortunately, left the game with a rib injury. Chase Daniel comes in. With the season pretty much being lost, don't rush bringing back in Matthew Stafford at this point. Green Bay, 10-3, coupled with the Saints loss today, Green Bay is now in the driver's seat to get the number 1 seed. And finally, in Arizona, the San Francisco 49ers lose to the Washington football team 23-15. And this was a rough day for Nick Mullins. Sacked 4 times, and Mullins threw a pick 6 today. this was just not a good game for Nick Mullins. He takes another beating. And the injuries just keep coming. They lose Debo to a hamstring injury. The running game was pretty much shut down. And then Alex Smith has to leave the game with an injury. Dwayne Haskins has to come in. But whatever, even though they didn't have an offense, the Washington defense was just good enough to win the game, and they're now 6-7 and lead the NFC East. And the schedule's very favorable for Washington to make the playoffs. They do get Seattle next week, but after that they get Carolina and Philadelphia. That's two, and they can go 2-1, finish 8-8, a respectable 8-8. I didn't think 8-8 was even possible for the NFC East, but Washington might finish 8-8 and potentially host a playoff game. You just got to give it to Alex Smith and Ron Rivera for getting that team together in year one. Rivera changing the culture in DC. You got to give credit to where it's due. And San Francisco, this was the nail in the coffin for the 49ers. This loss pretty much eliminates them from the playoffs. Now it's pretty much on to, they probably might finish somewhere near 6-10. Could get a top draft pick to draft a quarterback. So that's not too bad of a consolation prize that Kyle Shanahan will get to draft a franchise quarterback next year in the draft. And a healthy Debo, a healthy Ayuk, a healthy Kittle. This team will be back in 2021. Jimmy G, not maybe if he restructures his contract, but Jimmy G, not so much. But I think things will be better for the 49ers in 2021. This season's just what could go wrong, has gone wrong for the 49ers this year. But as for Washington, congratulations. I think you're going to make the playoffs this year. And on to fun. And that will conclude it this week for NFL Week 14. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back Wednesday night to preview NFL Week 15. And we get Saturday games this week. So we are getting near the end of the football season. Everybody have a good night.